Give me just one moment to finish setting up here and we'll get started. Okay, good morning. Thank you very much for attending. Today we are going to go over how to boost your credit in 2025. Specifically, I like to coach people how to get their credit scores up 60 points in 60 days. This is a more of a secondary webinar for me. I tend to do webinars teaching people how to purchase with very little money out of pocket using down payment assistance and grant programs that are readily available. I'm actually located in southeastern Michigan, although my reach lately has been extending to several other states. So please, these programs are available throughout the country. So I'm going to give you a couple of links. I always encourage people to schedule a call with me, especially when it comes to your credit. I always like to learn your situation and help coach people as much as we possibly can. But you'll find with some of the tips and tools and best practices, we can typically get people's credit scores up 60 points in 60 days with some very easy maneuvers. So with that being said, I am going to jump right in. If you have any questions, please just hit the chat box, type them right in. I'm going to try to keep up with my Facebook friends. Looks like we had a good amount of people sign up that way, as well as the people that came to me directly through my website, nodownpaymentrequired.org. And we're actually getting a fair amount of traction lately for an application that we currently have under construction. It's not available on the Play Store or the Apple Store yet, but it will be shortly. So if you're ever curious with regards to what programs you might actually qualify for, this app will be that solution. So I'm going to put it in the chat box here. It's actually nodownpayment.app. So that's nodownpayment.app. And what you get by going to that link is you'll actually see what programs you'll qualify for whatever area or address that you put in. So you can actually put in a specific address, enter your information, and you'll be emailed a list of all the programs that you actually could qualify for. But as you put the address in, you'll see all of the different programs. So if you put in an address, heck, I just did one earlier this morning in Detroit, and there were 23 programs that this specific property qualified for. Just click the Get Details button, and boom, you'll get a list once you enter your information, and just your email address and phone number is fine. You don't need to get into the details. The more details you do put into the app, the more targeted the data will be for you. So great way to find out what programs you actually qualify for. So we're very excited to be able to offer that tool to people. So let's get started with how to get your credit scores up 60 points in 60 days. So who is this designed for? Well, this program is specifically designed for people whose credit scores are anywhere between 500 to 600, or if you have no credit scores. So if your credit scores are above 600, you can certainly use some of these tools to maybe boost it up a little bit higher. If your scores are above 700, a lot of these tools will help you, but just not nearly as much as if your scores are in that 500 to 600 range. We're also going to tackle some of the big questions that people have. Hey, what happens if I had a recent bankruptcy or a repossession? Or how do I handle recent collections? So we're going to go over those items as well. Or anybody that just wants to learn more about how the credit industry relates to the mortgage world and how we can possibly manipulate some of those algorithms to get a quick spike in your credit score. So we're going to touch on those things this morning. Why do we do these, or why do I offer this information? Well, I find that at least in my neck of the woods, and from what I hear, it's the same throughout the country. The rental market is in such, it's in a pretty sad state right now, and what you get for your money is very disheartening. And as far as where we see rentals and what I'm reading, they're predicting rentals to continue to increase in price at 5% a year for the next 5 years. So as far as a national average, right now a 2-bedroom apartment is, I think it's at the $1,350 area. Actually, here where I am in southeastern Michigan, a 2-bedroom apartment is $1,300. So I know when you start getting in some other areas, it can be double or triple that amount. And like I said, what you get for your money is very disheartening. I also find that there's a lot of misinformation out there as far as how to improve your credit and increase your credit scores. So we're going to give you the real deal here today. So there are a lot of best practices here, and more importantly, things that you shouldn't do. So I find that people naturally start to pay old collections and things off, and a lot of times that can actually negatively impact your credit for the short term, and I'll explain why shortly. So, and I also find that people are just overpaying for credit repair companies, and they're not getting the results that they used to. So a lot of the credit repair companies that are out there, they were basically taking advantage of some of the loopholes that were in the Fair Credit Reporting Act for many years. And they just don't yield the same results as they used to with the technology that's out there. So it's allowed some of the credit agencies to actually take advantage of technology and not offer or not be able to use those tools as they once were to manipulate your scores as quickly as possible. And I'll go over some of that in just a few moments. So why do I do this? I actually found myself in your situation about 10 years ago after a couple of mishaps with business failures that I'll spare you the details on that, but I had to rebuild my credit from scratch. And that would have been probably about 13 years ago that I had to do that. And it was a lot harder back then. Back then, we were writing letters and doing things like that. And we were able to get my credit scores up after a bankruptcy from down in the basement up above 700 in 2 years. So those tools and those techniques still work today. Actually, there are more tools. It's actually easier to rebuild today than it was 10 to 13 years ago. So, so today I'm going to give you the benefit of what I've learned along the way. I actually spent well over 25 years in the mortgage world, so I have a pretty good understanding of what they look for, the guidelines that they use, and how to manipulate the scores, for lack of better words, to get you a quick spike. So my goal for you today is to get your credit scores up 60 points in 60 days and give you the tools and the knowledge that you can do that comfortably on your own without having to engage the services of some of these credit restoration companies. And more importantly, what I'm starting to see right now as the economy tends to tip into a more of a slowdown, people are starting to rely on some of the debt consolidation companies. And I will tell you, please, at all costs, avoid those companies. They are it's almost predatory what goes on in that world. But without fail, I always have a few people a week that I talk to that call me after they engage those services. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of benefit there, but and I'll go over why in a little bit. So in addition to getting your scores up 60 points in 60 days, I want to teach you how to identify areas on your credit that are ripe for a quick impact that we can manipulate to get a quick bounce in your score, help you add new credit, because a lot of times the programs that I tend to connect people with, they need to see some trade lines out there, and help you set some reasonable goals with predictable timelines as far as how long is it going to take to do this. So whether your timeline is 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, it doesn't matter. I'm in this for the long haul. I've been helping people for quite some time get these quick bounces in their scores, and more importantly, connect them with some of the down payment assistance and grant programs that are out there so they can obtain home ownership within a relatively short period of time. So if home ownership is your goal, then I'd like to believe I'm the person you want to talk to. I'll connect you to the lenders that offer the different grants and programs to make things happen for you. All right. So next thing, I want to just jump right into what do they look for in the mortgage world with regards to credit. So I want to give you a good understanding of what they look for. Then we're going to tackle some of the things that I coach people on with regards to correcting some of the damage that might be out there, and then give you access to some of the tools. So the first thing is there are actually more than 3 credit bureaus, but the mortgage world does focus on the big 3, we call them. So TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Okay. In the mortgage world, they typically will look for the middle credit score. There are some new programs out there where they might blend them or average them. Okay. The programs that I tend to help connect people with to get in and purchase with very little money out of pocket, they still 100% will use the middle credit score. Now, credit scores can range anywhere from 300 to 850. Okay. Ideally, we want to get that middle score up above 600. The higher we can get it, the more money we can possibly qualify for. So if we can get your credit score up to 700, we can actually start stacking grants. So, and please tune into my webinars. I do those webinars on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I actually have another one coming up this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Feel free to reach out to me, and actually I'll put my booking link into the chat box right now. And let's see here. Here is the link where you can book a call with me. No down payment required.org/book. When you go there, just click the link in the chat box and you'll be able to reach me to schedule a call. Happy to learn your situation and happy to schedule you for my next webinar. Just let me know in the chat box. So let me get into the Zoom, and I want to share the link there as well. Okay. All right. So when we look at the credit scores, like I said, we want to get those credit scores above 600 if at all possible. I do have programs that go down to 580. So if your score is above 580, we've got good news there. But with regards to the credit scores, we're going to pick that middle credit score. So whichever one falls in the middle. So if you got one at 550, say 600, and then 700, we're going to take that 600. They do not average them, or at least for the programs that I work with. Then what we want to do is we want to take a look at what credit scores are the lowest and get those up. Okay, the middle score and the high score are what we're, if the high score is above 600 or 650, whatever, we don't worry about that. That one's done. So we're gonna focus on the credit bureau that's got the the middle score. So the middle score and the high score need to be above that 600 mark. Then we're going to isolate some opportunities on that middle and high score to get that quick spike for you so you can get in that approval zone, as we call it. Okay. Now, what actually goes into a credit score? There are several components. Payment history is the biggest thing. If we have any recent late payments in the last 12 months, that really drives things down the most. So the big thing is try to keep all those payments on time for 12 months, and we're going to have some opportunities. If you do have any isolated late payments, you can actually call the creditors. I find that this is successful a fair amount of time, without question, 25% of the time. If it's an isolated incident, you can get some sympathy on the other end of the phone by calling the creditor and asking them to remove it. Didn't realize it. Sorry about that. Bring it up to date. And you'd be shocked how many will actually do that. Now, if you have collections showing up on your credit report, please do not pay them if they are over 2 years. It's not going to help you a whole lot. Okay. In fact, in many cases, it'll knock your credit score down. And I'll go over why in just a few moments. Credit utilization, okay, is the next big one. So payment history actually accounts for 35% of what goes into your credit score. Utilization, 30%. Utilization is just the available balance that you have on your credit cards in relationship to what the limit is. So if you have a $300 credit card and you owe $300, that's 100% utilization. If we actually pay that credit card down below 30%, right now, I'm finding people can get a good 30, 40-point bounce out of that by taking a maxed out card and paying it down. So I find that you're getting a bigger lift by leaving a slight balance on it of maybe $10 versus paying it down to zero. Now, credit utilization is about 30% of what goes into your credit score. Length of credit history plays in there for 15%. So if you have any accounts that are out there, say you got an auto loan with 4 or 5 payments left on it, don't pay it off. Okay, I find that if you pay off that credit line, it's going to show up paid. Your credit score might go down a little bit. Okay, so do not close any accounts and do not pay off any loans unless we tell you to, or unless you've been run through a simulator that we consider accredited. Okay, so we don't want you to pay off a car loan and lose a trade line. Every now and then I run into people that are going to pay off a car thinking their credit score is going to go up, and it goes down because now they've lost that credit line on the report. It just shows paid. Okay, so doesn't always help you to do that. So anyways, next thing we want to talk about, how do we handle some of the big issues? Right now, one of the bigger things that we have to talk about are student loans. So there are a fair amount of people that are saddled with student loans, and it's something you're going to have to deal with. So just keep that in mind. So student loans are right now being taken out of forbearance. They're deferred. Deferred means you are still in school, okay? Forbearance means you just didn't have to make payments for a while. Sometimes people will do an income-based repayment plan and says you don't need to make a payment. I think they're actually starting to do away with that and forcing people to take payments. So my thoughts are, you want to get some type of repayment plan, whether it's $10. If they tell you you're on an income-based repayment plan, you don't have to pay anything, you're not doing yourself any favors. The interest clock keeps ticking, and next thing you know, you wake up and it's, the older you get, it's 3, 5, 10 years later, and it's like, how the heck did my student loans get so high? Well, you never made a payment, and the interest clock just keeps ticking away. So in my mind, Call your student loan servicing company, get something set up, whether it's $10 a month. Okay, we need something in order to get you financed. So if your goal is to buy a home, we need to have some type of repayment plan. Okay, the zero repayment plan won't work. So that's why I say call them up, try to get something, $10, $20. Sometimes they'll tell you, sorry, we can only do the income-based repayment plan because your income is too low. Be insistent. You know what? I'm tired of watching the interest on my loans tick up. I want to pay $10 a month. Please put me on a $10 a month payment plan, or 20. I have some programs that will actually use those low payments, as long as they're not zero, to qualify for. Now, if your payments are actually in default, which we're starting to run into now, if you're not making your payments and they go into default, it is crushing your credit scores. So I have people that if you're in default right now, it's very easy to call up, set up an income-based repayment plan, make your payments for 90 days, and then they'll flip it from being in default to paid as agreed. Your credit scores might go from a 550 to a 650 because now we have a negative item on your credit that's impacting your credit score, flipped around to a positive. Okay. The downside is they won't let you make all three payments at once. You've got to make three payments and then it'll get flipped around. So it could take about 4 months for all of that to play out. But the good news is it flips from a negative to a positive, and a lot of people can really turn their credit around by doing that. So that's student loans. Unfortunately, it is becoming a big issue with a lot of people right now that have student loans. So, but we do have some options, and there is some coaching for you on that side. Just schedule a call with me. Happy to help you on that side. Now, if you have any repossessions, I have a fair amount of people co-signed a loan for a family member, bought a car on a B lot, and it died a few days later and they were stuck with it. So a lot of reasons for repossessions that are beyond our control. I get it. So there are some options. If the repossession is over a couple of years old, I'm finding that I've got a few people approved over the past 30, 60 days that didn't have to pay off the repossessions. So depending upon whether we got the other area of credit, there are other areas on their credit report in alignment. So they're becoming more forgiving on repossessions lately, depending upon what the situation is and how old it is. Sometimes we may need to reestablish payment terms with some of these companies that may have done a repossession. If they'll take it, it doesn't have to be forever. Okay, we reestablish payments, make a payment or two to them, then get you approved for some of the down payment assistance programs or grants. What you do after we get the house, that's up to you. No judgment there. I understand that sometimes these repossessions happen for reasons that are beyond your control, and there's no reason to pay them in your mind, and I respect that. So, but sometimes we do need to strike some terms with them, whether they're short term or not, just to get you across the finish line. So I just need to learn your situation so I can best coach you on that side. Now, if you've had the misfortune of going through a bankruptcy, Chapter 7, if you've done a Chapter 7, unfortunately, we can't do anything till 2 years after the discharge. The good news is, once it's discharged, we can start building credit right away. It's very easy to build credit after a bankruptcy. A lot of tools out there, a lot of ways to get credit going for you. The downside is, the upside is the algorithms for the credit bureaus know that when you do a bankruptcy and that you got a pass on your debts. So if you pay your bills on time for the first 12 months, your scores are going to shoot up right away. Now, if you're late on anything after a bankruptcy, I think they actually hit you harder than if you didn't have a bankruptcy because they know you got that pass. So it's important that you stay up to date on your payments for at least the first couple of years, get you into a house, and then obviously life gets in the way of our plans every now and then, and I get it. So after a Chapter 17, we can build credit right away, no late payments. Chapter 13, that's when you actually, well, just to clarify, Chapter 7 is when you wipe the slate clean, okay? Get rid of all of those debts, except the ones that might be secure, then you might have to reaffirm on those. Chapter 13 is actually when you reorganize. They take all your debts, put them together, negotiate the balances down a little bit, and then you pay those creditors back over time. Whether that's 4, 5, 6 years, it's a long road and it's a tough road. So if you ever have the choice, try to push your bankruptcy attorney into a Chapter 7 if at all possible. Now, on a Chapter 13, because I would say, treat your personal life like a business. If you are in that bad of a pain point, try to wipe the slate clean. Okay, it's easier for us to get you financed, actually, and it's an easier road to go. When you're in a Chapter 13, the payments are usually quite high and really disruptive. A lot of times I see people will get into a 13, can't make the payments, a life event pops up, and they get derailed out of it. So for that reason, I always say try to go to a Chapter 7 if you can. Now, if you're in a Chapter 13, after you've made 12 months payments to the trustee in the Chapter 13, you can actually get a mortgage. So after 12 months payments on time, boom, we can get you a mortgage. Every now and then, I'll have a trustee that might fight it a little bit. I've only had that happen twice. We prevailed both times, just because the rental market is so bad and the rental rates are so high right now. Last one I had was a gentleman in Waterford whose kids were in Waterford schools. He couldn't find anything to rent for his family under a couple $1,000s a month, but we could sure get him a house for $1,700 a month. So it made more sense for him to actually purchase. The trustee fought us originally, but the gentleman's bankruptcy attorney, sent a motion to the bankruptcy court, and the trustee backed down and allowed us to do it. Okay, a little bit more of a cumbersome process, but we were able to get him across the finish line. Okay, now once your bankruptcy on a Chapter 13 is discharged, then we do have to wait 2 years before we can do anything like the Chapter 7. So there is chatter about those guidelines changing because they don't really make a lot of sense. You would think after you made all your payments for 4, 5, 6 years, you'd be able to get something right away. So I think that that's a flaw in the mortgage world with regards to how they handle that. And I understand that there are some people that are pushing to get that rule changed. Now, as far as collections, collection accounts are always something that trip majority of the people up. Okay, so if you have a collections account that are over 2 years old, typically I tell people leave those alone. Okay, if you pay, a lot of times, let's just say you have a collection account from a cable company. You didn't return one of the remotes and they threw a collection on your account credit report for $100. If that collection is over 2 years old and you pay it, it's going to show up next month on your credit report as collection paid as agreed. You've actually reactivated an old collection and your credit score will go down. So that's why I say anything on your credit report that's over 2 years old, leave it alone. Let those sleeping dogs lie. No sense waking them up and having them re-report it and pushing your credit scores down temporarily. Okay? And a lot of times, the lenders, if it's over 2 years old and small, they'll overlook it. So especially right now, anything medical, don't pay. I mean, if it's over, the medicals records and medical collections are not supposed to be playing into your credit scores. So any medical collections, please just leave those out there. Sometimes if those medical collections are over 2,500, they may be a topic of conversation, but we can many times fight around that to get the resolve for you. Now, if you have some sizable collections that are over 2 years old, we may want to start negotiating repayment terms or balances, but let's do that after we get you approved. So if a lender comes back with your, saying, hey, we get you approved for a loan, but we want you to pay off these collections, we can go back and start negotiating because we've got your approval subject to paying those collections off. So we can negotiate more. You come from a position of power. So I'm a big fan of leaving that stuff there and Let's get your approval subject to taking care of those issues, and then we know what we're dealing with. Now, if you have collections less than 2 years old, like I said, medical, we're going to leave alone. Collections that are 1 to 2 years old, we might want to run those through a simulator. And the simulator will tell us whether we could pay those off and get a lift in your credit score. Okay. So if the collections are brand new, they're probably going to be worth paying off because we can possibly get a lift in your credit scores. Now, we won't go back to where your credit scores were before that collection was filed, but we might go halfway. So if somebody puts a collection on your account and your credit scores go down 50 points, and it's within a month of that collection being filed, if you pay it, your score might go back up 25 points. So anything that's recent, we want to consider paying off. Okay, because it could be an oh oops moment, you caught it and paid it right away. That's why your scores will go back up a little bit. So if it's closer to that year mark, then it becomes a little bit more questionable and we may not want to pay those off. But a lot of times, anything within the last 12 months, we're going to have to address or pay off in order to get you approved for a loan. Okay, so it becomes case by case as we start approaching that year mark, and it depends on what type of a collection, where it is, and what the circumstances are. Okay, so for that, I always tell people, schedule a call with me. Happy to learn your situation, put myself in your shoes, and give you some insight and a path to get your scores where they need to be. So let me give you another link here to my calendar. All right, chat, good. Here you go. No down payment required /book. Schedule a call with me. Happy to learn your situation, put myself in your shoes, and get your scores turned around as soon as possible. Or register for my webinars, how to purchase with very little money out of pocket using these down payment assistance programs and grants. So these webinars that I do are all free. I don't charge for them. So please take me up on them. Okay. So that's how things roll in the mortgage world. Here are my steps to get your credit scores up 60 points in 60 days. First thing we want to do, we want to get your credit reports. You can go to freeannualcreditreport.com. It's important to know where your credit scores are. So if you can, pay for the scores. The FICO scoring models are what we want. Michael, the models 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, those scoring models are what they use in the mortgage world. By the way, didn't mention this earlier. There are hundreds of scoring models out there. The mortgage industry is one of the only industries that I'm aware of where it's standardized. FICO 2, 3, 4, 5. If you go into the automotive finance world, hundreds of scoring models. So, but what we want to do is by focusing, getting these credit reports, we want to start looking at them and seeing what kind of baggage is on there. Typically, if we're able to get those credit scores, we can find out what's the high score. Is that in the strike zone where we can work with, or do we need to push that up and the middle score up? Okay, and then once we know which ones we want to target, we start looking at those credit reports. So we want to determine whether we need to work with one credit report or two. So we want to focus on, like I said, the middle and the high scores for those desired lifts. And we want to understand your credit profile and what's driving those scores down. Is it credit utilization, late payments, collections? Maybe there's just not enough credit accounts out there, and we'll help you build those. And we do need to have at least 2 or 3 trade lines. And a trade line is just a line of credit on your credit report. They can be new, old, or even alternative trade lines. And I'll go over what those are in just a moment. So if it's an old one, that's fine. New ones, those are good, but we typically want to have some type of history. We want to have at least 2 to 3 trade lines that have 12 months history. So that 12-month history could be a card that was paid off last year, could be a credit card, could be a lot of things. So we want to run any proposed adjustments on your credit through a credit auditor or simulator if at all possible. And actually, there are simulators out there. They're free ones on Credit Karma. And by the way, some of those free credit reporting agencies or credit companies like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Experian, great tools. They're free. Keep in mind that the credit scores that you see on those, as much as I like them and I like to use them as a benchmark, they're not the scores that are used in the mortgage world. They are free scores that are proprietary to each one of those platforms. So they're not going to be what you're going to see in the mortgage world. Many times I think Credit Karma is about 20 points lower, same with Experian, and then same with Credit Sesame, okay? But they're good baselines to work off of so we can get a feel for where your scores are. What we don't want to do is start giving out your Social Security number to people to start pulling your credit and driving your scores down. We don't want to do that. We want to manage this yourself as much as you possibly can. And then when we're pretty comfortable that you're in that strike zone, then we want to connect you with a lender. And typically we want to connect you with the lender that's, in my mind, the one that's going to give you the most amount of access to grant money and down payment assistance money, so you can possibly purchase with as very little money out of pocket as possible, okay? Now, if we need to, we will help you add new credit. We can do that by adding secured credit cards, secured loans, becoming an authorized user for a friend or family member's card, okay? I'm going to give you some of the word tracks where it's not as uncomfortable as you think it is. It's not like you're asking for money from someone. You're asking for help, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that. And if you need to send dispute letters and start disputing things on your credit, schedule a call with me. I'll show you how to do that for free so you don't have to engage the services of some of these credit repair companies. Lexington Law, I think it's Credit Care. I think they changed their name. It was out in Colorado. But anyways, a lot of those companies, I find that they're kind of like, they're hamster wheels. You get on them and you pay your monthly fee of $100, $200 a month. And not that it's bad, but they just don't work as well as they used to, okay? Just because technology has entered that space. And a lot of times the technology can actually see that the letters came from Lexington Law, Credit Care, or Credit National Care. They can see that they came from those companies, and they can discard those requests or challenges as frivolous. A lot of times I've heard people getting letters back stating that we understand that we feel as if a credit repair company is doing something on your behalf, and they're actually threatening. They're saying that this could be illegal. They may be taking advantage of you. They're trying to help you. I get that, but I just don't think that the what you pay for those services is worthwhile. I think you can do it on your own in a very predictable fashion, just by setting up a call with me. Happy to do it. So I do it for a lot of people and getting them on that path to home ownership. Okay, and the older I get, I hate to see people waste money. So if your credit is that low where we need to do disputes and things like that, there are tools out there where you can do it for free, and I'll teach you how to do that too. But it's usually better to do that through a phone call. Now, the things that you want to do, like I said, we want to subscribe. We want to get your credit report for sure through freeannualcreditreport.com. We also want to subscribe to some of the free credit monitoring services. I like Credit Karma. I know a lot of people in the mortgage world go, oh no, it's you know what? It's free. It's a good way to get started. It's a good way to get your mind wrapped around what's on your credit. So for that reason, I like Credit Karma. I also understand Credit Karma can sometimes be a little finicky to get on if you get locked out. So there's also a competing website to Credit Karma called Credit Sesame, okay? I like using both of these tools for credit monitoring. So make sure that when you sign up for those websites, you don't have to pay anything. They're free. And as you're signing up and going through it, they're going to try to sell you stuff. Just click no and keep moving forward. And make sure that you do select the credit monitoring box. And that way, anytime something changes on your credit report, you're going to get an alert. whether your scores go up, whether your collections get removed, or anything like that. Okay. I also work with a couple of lenders that if you want to get access to the actual mortgage credit scores and have someone run your information through a simulator, we can certainly do that. They typically charge $70 for that, but it's going to give you all three credit bureaus, all three credit scores, and they can run it through a simulator to give you a feel for what you can do to get a quick spike in your score. Don't need to do it, but sometimes people are in a hurry, and it might be worth just cutting right to it to get people where they need to be. So if your credit scores are maxed out or your limits are above 30%, that's one of the easiest things to get a quick spike in your score. So if we pay your balances down below 30%, that's where we're getting the best bang right now. And the reason I think that is right now, credit is actually deteriorating at a very rapid rate in the US. So credit scores are plummeting. Actually, I just read an article that said Southeastern Michigan, the Detroit area, credit scores are, as a whole, per capita, heading down faster than any other place in the country. So pretty disheartening. But a lot of times people are maxing out those cards. So there are ways to pay those cards off on a timely basis and get a quick spike in your score. I'm actually going to give you a quick little tidbit right now. If you actually go out to Credit Karma, because I realize there's never any extra money in my house. And if there ever is, there's usually something that pops up that derails it, a car repair or things like that. So I get it. So this is one tool, how I coach people in our private sessions. And I always tell people, please schedule that call with me. But this tool is great. So if you go out to Credit Karma and your credit score is, let's just say 600, and you got a credit card that's maxed out, but you don't necessarily have the money to pay it down today, what you can do is pay that credit card right before it reports to the credit bureaus. So if, let's just say you have a Capital One card, $300 limit, it's maxed out at 300. Or worse, it's over the limit. Say it's 320 on a 330 credit card. You're going to get spanked even harder, okay, because you went over your limit. So if you actually time that, and I say timing it by going into Credit Karma, clicking on the account, you're going to see when that creditor reports that data to the credit bureaus. So if they report that data on the first of the month, then what we want to do is we want to pay that credit card down maybe on the 20th of the previous month. So right before they report that data to the credit bureau. So remember I said there's never any extra money in my house. Well, this is what I would do. I would take all that money, pay that credit card 300 and say it's over the limit, say it's 320, pay that 320 credit card down below 30%, which 30% of 300 would be $90. So it would cost 320 minus 90 is, what is that, 230? So take $230, pay that down on the credit card, let them report that data in the next week or so your score will shoot up. Now, if you're over your limit, your score is going to shoot up probably 50 points. If you're at your limit or slightly below it, you're probably going to see a good 30 to 40 point bounce out of that. And the reason, normally it used to be 20 points. Now it's 30 to 40. And the reason that is, I personally believe the algorithms that create your credit scores are getting smarter. It's more real time. If you're able to pay your debts down in an environment where credit scores are deteriorating because late payment defaults on credit cards are skyrocketing, they consider you a better credit risk. As a result, I'm finding people are getting bigger lifts on their score than ever before by paying down utilization. Okay, so that's kind of an advanced maneuver, but always like to pay it forward that way and make sure you know what. That's the type of things I'm going to teach you on our calls. So make sure you carve out that time. So the other thing I tell people, do not pay that card off, okay? With credit card defaults increasing as much as they are, if you have a payment history that isn't perfect on those cards, or you're continuously late on it, this might be an opportunity for them to close those accounts. Not seeing a pattern yet, but I have had a couple of people that have paid cards down and accounts got closed because now they're whole, okay? So don't want to, so we make sure you leave a little bit of balance on there, okay? That's, I always think you get a better lift by having a slight balance on a card versus zero. Just my experience. I don't have any data or numbers to back that up yet, just experience. Okay. Get added as an authorized user. Okay, this is, I don't know how you are, but it's always uncomfortable asking people to borrow money. We're not asking that. So what you want to do is ask a friend or family member, hey, John, I can get approved for a loan, but I'm short one trade line on my credit report that has a history. Is there any way you can add me to one of your credit cards so I can have a 12-month history that'll flow through to my credit report so I can get approved for this down payment assistance or grant program? I don't need any money. I just need another trade line to pop up on my credit. That's not a terrible ask from a friend or a family member. It's just a phone call. Now, I find that this works 90% of the time, and I'll go over in a few minutes why I said 90% of the time. It'll give you a big lift, but 10% of the time, not as big as we would hope for, okay? The other thing we want to do is we want to open up a secured card or a secured loan as soon as possible if we need some trade lines. If you don't have anything on your credit report, we can start building alternative trade lines by getting statements showing that you paid certain things on time that don't report to credit bureaus. You know, rent payments, cell phone bills, car insurance, subscriptions. I'm going to give you a bigger list in just a few minutes, but adding trade lines can help us as well too. So if you have a credit report where there's no credit score, that's what we want to do. We also, if we need to, set up payment arrangements for collections over $2,000 because we can't get an automated approval, we want to do that as soon as possible. Okay, so those are the things to do. The things that we don't want to do. We don't want to apply for a new credit unless we know we're going to get it. Okay, so please don't apply for new credit. If there are a bunch of inquiries on your credit report, your score goes down. I don't know this is a fact, but the algorithms are getting smarter. If they see a bunch of inquiries and no new credit issued, they know that there's something else that's possibly preventing you from being issued new credit. And I have a feeling it's not going to help your scores. Okay, so don't apply for new credit. Don't blindly pay off collections. I know I've said that a few times, but I want to just make sure we're hammering that home. Over 2 years, leave alone. Less than 2 years, case by case. Medical, forget about. We're not going to worry about those. They don't play into things any longer. Collections 1 to 2 years, we'll try to run those through a simulator. And collections 0 to 1 year old, we want to definitely have a conversation to attack those. Do not pay off credit card balances down to 0. Don't pay off any installment loans prematurely. And don't become an authorized user on any new account or any account with any late payments. And most importantly, do not employ a debt consolidation service. A debt consolidation service in the mortgage world is the same as going into a bankruptcy, and they will not finance you. So what happens is these debt consolidation companies, just to give you a feel for, this is just my opinion, what they do is they take all your debts, make your payments to the debt consolidation company. They take all of their fees up front. So they don't pay your creditors right away like you think they do. So they explain it to you as you're going to make the payments to them. They're going to take their fee out of it and forward the balance to the creditors. It doesn't work that way. they collect all their fees up front, and your creditors get ticked off by it. They should. And then just when your creditors have had enough and they're about to just throw them into collection, that's when these consolidation companies start to drip out the payments to your creditors. So what the creditors will do is go, oh, okay, since he's in debt consolidation, they will put it on your credit report. This account is in debt consolidation. And then the mortgage companies see that and it's like, sorry, we can't lend to you. You're basically the equivalent of a bankruptcy. So I find if you are in that, if your life is in that state right now, you're probably better off considering a bankruptcy, okay? And at least have the protection of a bankruptcy court versus some company in there that's just, sucking as much profit out of the payments you're sending them as they can. So please navigate around those debt consolidation companies. Okay, next thing, credit building tools. All right, first thing, secured cards. You can pick these up by Credit Karma. I work with a credit union locally in southeastern Michigan called Michigan First Credit Union. They've got some really good credit building tools. But when it comes to secured cards, I think Capital One is a good place to do it. I always tell people, try not to keep all your eggs in one basket, okay? Maybe a secured loan through Michigan First is a great tool. I'm going to go over that in a minute. So how a secured card works, though, is you send them a deposit. Capital One, send them a $300 deposit. They're going to send you a credit card with a $300 limit. It's important you use that card right away. Go charge a gallon, take a gas on it, and don't pay it all the way off. Just make sure you pay it below 30% as soon as you possibly can. It forces them to get it set up on your credit report so you can get your scores bounced up. Make sure we leave that small balance, please. So that's a secured card. Secured loan. These are great credit building tools right now. There are a few out there. Make sure they work similarly to what I'm going to describe with Michigan First. And there's actually a couple of other credit unions in the Detroit area that do these as well. And credit unions across the country for that matter. So what we want to look for is a company that's going to actually give you a loan based on a security deposit that you're going to give them. So in the company that I like to work with, Michigan First, you give them $525. They charge $25 to do this, so that's gone. They take the $500 that you give them and they put it in a savings account and lock it down so you can't touch it. That's security for the loan they're going to give you. So you $500 secured in your savings account, then they put $500 in your checking account right away. So when you go into their branch or set this up, by the time you walk out, you can log on to your accounts and say, oh, I've got $500 in my checking, $500 in my savings, but the savings is locked. You can't take it out. That's all. So then you pay off that $500 loan that they gave you in your checking account over 6 months. They're going to take $80-something a month out of your checking account, pay that off. But what's great about this is when they report it to the credit bureaus, they report it as a personal line of credit, which is one of the hardest things to get. So I've had people whose scores have shot up, 40, 60. I had someone a few months ago go up 70 points from getting this secured loan. And what's nice about it with Michigan First is they report it to all 3 credit bureaus. Not all creditors do that. A lot of creditors only report to 2 credit bureaus. So when it comes to an auto loan, they'll probably only report to 2. Most credit cards only report to 2. The credit building tools that I recommend report to 3. And that's what you want. We want to get a lift on all 3. Might as well. Okay. So once that loan is paid off over 6 months, then the benefits go away. You almost need to redo the loan if it's taking longer than that to get your scores up. But this is a great credit building tool. Next one, authorized user. Track for that. Hey, you're not asking for money, you're just asking for help. We need an additional trade line. We need an additional account to show up on your credit so you can get approved for these grants and down payment assistance. I said this works 90% of the time because The credit industries got wise to people manipulating and doing this, and they put some stops in there. And those stops were when you get added to a credit card for as an authorized user, they're supposed to enter the date that you were added, so that date shows up on your credit report that you were just added to account today. I find that many of these companies, it's still a manual entry. Many of these credit card companies, it's a manual entry. And a lot of times, like most of the phone jockeys, and don't get me wrong, I am a phone jockey, so I get it. We're all kind of timed with how long we should be on our phone calls and things like that. I find that human nature clicks in and they try to do things as quickly as possible, and they don't enter that date. It's a manual entry for some of these credit card companies still. So that's why it works 90% of the time. When they add you to it, it's going to be the open date of when the person first opened the credit card. So for example, I had a young lady a couple months ago that was approved for, or excuse me, she was added to Grandma's Sears Roebuck card. Didn't know Sears still is out there, but they still have Sears cards. And her Sears card, crazy as it sounds, had a $20,000 limit. She still owed a few $100s on it, but the card was opened in 1976. I can guarantee you this young lady wasn't even born in 76. But when she was added to Grandma's card, it showed up on her credit report the following month, 1976, well before she was born. And her scores went up 100 points by adding this old seasoned account that had a low balance and was never late. Okay, so it works 90% of the time because of that manual entry for the open date. It's still going to lift your score even if the open date's next month, but it's not going to hurt you, but we may not get the lift. Okay, so that's authorized user, still a great way to go. Next item, alternative trade lines. Now, alternative trade lines, what we want to do is we want to either get statements showing that these payments were made. It could be checking accounts, statements, or however you make the payments. Credit card statements, however you're making these payments for rent, auto insurance, PO box, storage payments, cable, cell phone bills, renter's insurance, utility bills, monthly subscriptions, Netflix, gaming, gym memberships. A couple of months ago, I had a young man that did not have a credit score, was actually in his future mother-in-law's basement with his fiance. They were living in mom's basement. Mom wanted to help them buy a house. He didn't have any credit score, but he had several gaming memberships. We were able to go to get his bank account statements for the last 12 months, showing that these $9.95 for, I think it was Xbox, PlayStation, and one other gaming platform. And we were able to show that every month these $10, $20 came out of his account, sent those to our third-party credit aggregator, and they were able to add it to the credit report to create 3 trade lines. And we were able to get him approved for a down payment assistance program. So we can take these alternative trade lines and get them added to your credit report. Okay? So we've got workarounds for certain things. Just need to know what your situation is like. Credit monitoring services. Credit Hero is a good one. I personally like Experian and Credit Karma. Reason I like those two, Experian is obviously going to give you the Experian score in the Experian credit report. Credit Karma is going to give you the Equifax and the TransUnion. So by doing Experian and Credit Karma, you're going to have all 3 credit bureaus and access to their version of a credit score. It may not be the algorithm that's used in the mortgage world, but it's a good one to start off of. So go out, get Experian and Credit Karma, get to know what's on there, schedule a call with me, and I can walk you through the rest of it on how we can get those scores up quickly. Okay. And if you have a hard time getting into Credit Karma, Credit Sesame is another good alternative. Next one, credit restoration services. Now, we talked about this a little bit. Lexington Law, National Credit Care, I'm just not a big fan of these. If you are in that particular area where you think you need these, schedule a call with me. I'd like to at least learn your situation, save you the expense. I mean, Lexington Law, $90 to $140 a month. I had somebody a couple of months ago that was paying $200 a month for their Cadillac service, which after a couple of months, I don't think there are benefits there. Okay. If your credit score is below 500, yeah, it might be worthwhile to do a couple of months with them, but that would be about the extent of it. But I can show you how to do it on your own. Okay. Same with National Credit Care. And actually, National Credit Care, I think, is rebranding under another name now. So I forgot what that was. But I used to recommend National Credit Care, but I found that the level of service has just fallen into something similar to Lexington Law. Not much service, sign you up, collect your money, and send letters out that just don't take you anywhere, in my opinion. So, all right. So where do we go from here? I always tell people, schedule a call for me or register for one of my next webinar. Here, let me give you that link. Here it is. Let me get that link for you. This is where you can register directly for my webinar. Right in the chat box here, nodownpaymentrequired.org. And let me get that out there for our Facebook friends. All right. Any questions out there? Okay. Well, I would recommend scheduling a call with me. Let me give you my cell phone number. We don't have a ton of people today, although I'm streaming right now, so it's hard for me to see who's out there and who's on. 248-252-7283 is my cell phone number. That's always the easiest way to get a hold of me. Happy to learn your situation, put myself in your shoes, and formulate a plan or a blueprint to get you where you need to be. And I'm all about home ownership. You know, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, doesn't matter to me. We've got to start somewhere. Okay. And I find there are 3 key things to getting approved for a lot of the down payment assistance and grant programs that I help connect people with. Number 1, you got to have the income. Okay. So can't work for you, but that's the hard thing. So, but if you have income coming in, I'll show you how to get the money. It's never about money. I tell people the money's my job. I'll get you the down payment assistance programs and grants, get you qualified for them so you can purchase with just a few $1,000s out of pocket. The other thing is credit. And obviously, with what I've just gone over here, credit doesn't scare me. This is something, it's just a timeline. Sometimes we can do things quickly and it'll take 30, 60 days. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But what I do find is that patience and persistence, and there's very few things that we can't get through in life. We just need to make sure that you align yourself with people that have similar mindsets. Okay. And I really do. I don't know if you can say, I enjoy what I do. Okay. Helping people is just a passion of mine. I just discovered it, 10 years ago. Before that, I was just typically the guy that was always chasing numbers, thinking that that was it. And then one day when everything kind of came apart at the seams for me and I had to build things back myself, I realized that, money isn't, don't get me wrong, it's a number to track, I guess, but I thought it defined success. It didn't. And then the more people I can help, that's how I judge a successful day or month. So for me, it's not about the paycheck. It's about serving as many people as we can possibly can to get our message across, because renting for the long term isn't always the best solution. It may be for some people, but I find right now the rental market is in such sad shape that I think home ownership is just a great way to build wealth, build a future for you and your family. So, and I'll leave you with this. I had a lady that I spoke with a few weeks ago, and she was actually paying a very reasonable rate. She was paying $700 for a 2-bedroom apartment. And she was actually on the west side. I'm in the Detroit area, and I'm in Detroit all the time. That's where 80% of the business that I do is. I just love it. It's a community that I think is underserved, and there are a lot of people that just don't have access to good quality information. Anyways, this lady lived on the west side paying $700 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and she'd been in her job for a while. She has a couple of teenage kids, and basically her story was that she just wanted to improve her situation. I was like, I don't know that I can improve your situation, because $700 isn't really going to buy you a good quality house. You're paying such cheap rent. And she said, John, I know it's cheap, and but I want to pay more because I want to show my kids that there is more hard work and we can get more. And I want to get them into a good quality house to show that there's more to life. And that really sunk with me. That was just another altering moment, because it wasn't about her and it wasn't about me. It was about showing her children that there is a path forward and that we can do better, and that her hard work was paying off. And that resonated with me in a big way. So regardless of where your situation is, I'd like to help any way I possibly can. I always want to learn your story and kind of point you in the direction that somebody would help point me into. So like I said, 13 years ago, I found myself in a very awkward spot where I actually qualified for a down payment assistance program after building my credit back up after a bankruptcy. And for whatever reason, right before closing, the loan officer dropped on me that, I didn't put you through the down payment assistance program because you didn't need it. Your wife still had some money sitting in a retirement account after the bankruptcy that they didn't touch or liquidate, so you could use that money for the down payment. And it still irks me today, but I'm glad it happened that way, because that actually opened up the door, because that's when I made a decision, a conscious effort, that I was going to go into real estate, teach as many people as I possibly can about these down payment assistance programs and grants, and get people through the other side of renting home ownership, get out of renting and owning a home. Especially right now, I'm finding specifically there's almost like a couple of generations. They call them Gen Y and Zs, people 25 to maybe 35 years old, even 40. They're giving up on home ownership. They have no idea that these tools even exist, that we can, regardless of income. If your income is high, above 100,000, there's still down payment assistance money out there. If it's low, there's down payment assistance money out there. Just reach out to me, schedule a call, and I'm happy to learn your situation and let you know what's out there. I'm also going to put in my link to that app that we discussed earlier. That should slowly. Okay, here is the link to my application. And I am going to just click out and give you a feel for what it looks like. Here it is, called Note, and this app is going to take you right here. Down payment money is out there. We'll help you find it. Let's see if you're eligible. Just click right on it or scroll down. Here, I'm going to put in an address, 16801. This is where I grew up, Lamphere in Detroit, West Side. If any of you know it, just Brightmoor area. 482, 219. Look at that. You can see 23 programs are available on this right now. And just click get details, enter your name. I'll put my name in here. Hey, there's my Gmail address, kind of catch all, and get program details. I'm going to show you what you're going to get. So thank you. And let me go. And here it is. You will get an email just like this. And this email basically says 16801 Lamphere qualifies for 23 home buyer assistance programs totaling $30,000. Now, in this area of Detroit, $30,000 down, that's a lot of money. Okay, this is a little bit more challenging area, for lack of better words. Now, if you use this, I can tell you right now, I had somebody that called me, California, $100,000 available. New York, I think I had somebody last week, $40,000. $40,000 was available in Florida. Texas, I think, was $70,000. So these just, you can put addresses all over the country and it'll tell you exactly how many programs you'll qualify for. And then just click the get details button, enter your name, email address, and phone number, and it'll email you the list. Schedule a call with me and I'll tell you how we get into this list and how we can actually connect to all of these different programs. And sign up for my webinar. Everybody that registers for this, I automatically sign them up for my webinars. And those webinars are how to purchase with very little money out of pocket using these down payment assistance programs and grants. Okay, well, we're past the 1 hour mark and it's a Saturday, so I like to be respectful for everyone's time. Although here in southeastern Michigan, when I came in, it was raining pretty hard. So hope it clears up this afternoon. So it's not too bad, although I understand we've got some heat coming in this weekend. So I want to thank you all very much for attending. If you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out to me. Here is my cell phone number, 248-252-7283. Always happy to answer your texts. Let me get that out there to my Facebook friends too. Yep, there it is, 248-252-7283. So I thank you all very much for watching this. Hope our paths cross soon. And, keep the faith. There are some positive things out there for you on the horizon. You do not have to rent forever. Reach out to me. I'm always happy to build a blueprint for you, specific for your situation and your timeline, okay? Oh, and if you have any friends or family members that can benefit from any of these tools or things that I help people with, please have them reach out to me. I love referrals and love helping as many people as possible. Just have them book a link on my calendar. If you're catching this on a YouTube replay, just click down in the descriptions. Oh, one thing I didn't ask. If you could, anybody, everyone that out there, I didn't ask. I think my message will get pushed out to a lot more people. So let me give you, there it is. If you just go out to YouTube and go to Own the Roof, here it is. There's my YouTube channel. YouTube, Own the Roof, that you'll get right to me. And just follow me. And anytime we upload new content or do a webinar, it's streamed right to YouTube. It's streamed through Facebook. You'll get a reminder to chime in. We try to break these webinars up into chunks too and upload those so you can get right to the information that you're looking for. So, and then if you're out there on Facebook, please follow me. I actually just started doing Instagram this week. I have a great young lady that just started working with me. She's doing a fantastic job with getting some of our ads out there and just pushing the message through so we can help as many people as possible. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and hope our paths cross again soon. Have a good weekend, everyone. Goodbye.